Okay, so welcome to all of you to this session. So we will be presenting a bit more on VMware and also what we are doing in VMware. Also to share with you a bit more on our career journey throughout VMware, right from when we graduated and 2 years in the industry till today. So the agenda for today would actually be to tell you more about what VMware is. You might have heard of VMware or you might not have heard of it, right? And there's also the virtualization piece where a lot of enterprises are in fact really into virtualization because of its benefits. And we will also share with you some of the building blocks in a data center to explain to you more on what is virtualization and how is it being utilized. And then I will also move on to tell you about private, public, hybrid, multi-cloud. And we also want to share with you how businesses cope with COVID-19 and how we as a company adapt to all these industry trends and also the adopting the emerging technologies. Lastly, we will then share a bit more on also our career journey as well. So before I kickstart this whole session, if you have any questions, right, feel free to really raise it up in the QR code shared earlier, right? Or you can even type it in the chat box as well if you like. So before I really kickstart this whole session, I just would like to give a introduction on who from VMware we have right here. Right, so I have myself. My name is Judy. I'm actually the solutions engineer in VMware. With me, I have Xiaoyu, who is also a solutions engineer. So both of us, we graduated from university, Singapore Management University, and we joined VMware as our first career, right? And that is where we learned so much more about the technology industry. It's very different from how school life is, right? And this is where we are here to share with you, at least so you know what you have to expect, right? When you get out of college. And also we have Anson. Anson is actually the recruiter here, right? Who will be here to share more with you if you have any questions relating to internships, to the hiring process, or even the full-time jobs as well. So without further ado, let's just deep dive. So what is VMware? Right? Based on a simple Wikipedia source, it's actually a company that provides cloud computing and virtualization software and services as well. So in fact, right, in the whole industry, it was one of the first successful companies to virtualize the x86 architecture. So that is what we meant by the computers, right? And VMware itself, we as a company, we are born right on 1998, and that is where we really developed our first product. And throughout the years, a lot of acquisition happened. Right now, there is also, we are under Dell, right? And then right in 2007, we went public. And that's where a lot more different acquisitions happen because we understand the enterprises out there, what they are looking for, and what are some of the growing trends, right? Because we all know that technology is changing, right? A few years back, you might have like an iPhone model, and right till today we have developed to, let's say, like an iPhone 12, right? So that is where technology is, right? It's always growing. So that is where, as a company and also as a solutions engineer, right, in VMware, we really have to learn more about this changing technologies so that we can better apply it, right, to our customers to help the enterprises out there to build their IT digital foundation. So that is where we are at, right, in VMware. So let's take a look at the core technology, right, that powers the private cloud for enterprises. So this terminology is called virtualization, right? And essentially, let me put in simple terms, right? Let's say you got to retrieve information from your personal phone or from your desktop, right? And you probably got to retrieve all this data from a place, right? And where would that place be? It's actually what we call the data center, right? And that data center will actually contain a lot of data and information, and users, they can actually use any device to connect back and be able to query the data, right? So like an example, right? We are all familiar with Facebook, right? So let's say for Facebook itself, Facebook have their own data center, right? It can be their headquarters or something. And that is the place that a lot of data churning is being happened, right? And a lot of data and applications are being stored as well, right? So that essentially is one idea that we can relate better, right, to the real life. So as I said, data center is that terminology, right? So data center is actually a place that contains a lot of this data and information, right? And they are being stored in what we call servers. And essentially how VMware play our part, right, is to really apply the software on top of these data centers such that we are able to power all this data and allow all this information to run so that the end users, meaning the corporate, the enterprises, the businesses are able to store their data somewhere. They're able to run their data more efficiently. So that is where we come in, right? So a little bit more interesting, right? The data center, you might hear of it before, right? But especially for myself, right? I only heard about the data center, or I would say I really know about a data center. I managed to step into a data center when I joined VMware. And this is really that whole new experience, right? Because we essentially only deal with our PCs or our mobile phones, right? We seldom have that opportunity to step into a data center, especially when, let's say, academic life, right? Like a student life. So, once you enter into the enterprise, right, you get to experience all these new things, which I found it very interesting, right? So this is a picture of how the data center looks like. It's just racks and racks of, units of servers. And that is where servers, if I can put it simply put, right, is really imagine a laptop is for personal use, right? It's for mini use, and it really contains the data in the laptop. So imagine the server as a really gigantic enterprise grade laptop, right? That stores enterprise data, gigabits of data. That is where servers come into play. And where do we put these servers? We put them in the data center, which is highly secure. It's really cold inside there because we need all the power, right? The cooling to really cool all these systems down. So this is really an interesting concept, right? And in fact, if let's say we talk about servers, we also have the rack that store all the servers, and we can have different types of servers. We can have the file servers, the messaging servers. We can even actually store storage servers over there as well. So if I were to pick and take one server out, right, and that is the hardware that we all refer to, right? And there is where we always have the operating systems like Windows 10 operating systems or Mac OS's operating system. So that is an example. And then we run an application on top of these operating systems, right? And essentially, this is how the business works, right? They have the operating systems and they run the application on it, and users can use and utilize these applications, right? But there's one problem, right? There's one problem with this kind of setup. It is not so optimized, right? Because if you can see, right, research has actually shown that in fact, right, the CPU utilization is really low for such an architecture setup, right? And what is CPU, right? So think of it this way, right? You have your mobile phone, right? How long do you use your mobile phone, right? If you have one day, right, and you only use your mobile phone for 10 minutes every day, this is really low utilization, right? So it's the same thing applied to a server, right? If you buy a server, $1,000, you buy it, and you only use it 10 minutes or like 2% or 3% utilization, right? It's not very efficient, right? So that is where VMware, we aim to come in to really ensure that businesses, when they purchase the servers, we want to make it very efficient for them, right? We have to increase their utilization so that their value is utilized. So what is virtualization, right? Virtualization is the key solution in VMware. That we do have many other solutions as well, right? But this is really the most simple one that a lot of companies are using. So we have the traditional architecture. This is what I shared about, right? And what VMware do is that we package them into what we call virtual machine, right? So it's a machine, right, where we have the operating system and the applications. And we virtualize this whole architecture whereby we apply the hypervisor. So hypervisor is a new terminology for all of you, right? It's actually the industry term. Hypervisor VMware, we have the hypervisor called the vSphere, and this is the software that we apply on top of the server. And from there, we can actually run a lot more applications, right? So traditionally, this is how things are, right? One server tagged to one application, right? So when we have virtualization, you can actually be able to utilize many to one relationship. So you can have one server, you can run 10 applications on top of that server because we package the applications. And that is where the utilization can, of course, increase, and the value for the businesses can increase as well. They can purchase one single server, they can run 10 applications, right? Imagine how good this is, right? So that is virtualization, right? And right in the data center, VMware, we also have what we call the software-defined data center. And essentially what this means, right, is that we virtualize the servers, we can virtualize the storage servers as well. We can virtualize, things like firewall, where you're familiar with firewall is the protection solution, right? We can virtualize a lot of things, and all these things will be what we form the software-defined data center. So to put things into context, right, this is actually something that we envision a lot of enterprises to go towards, right? To build this very efficient, easy to manage solution for the businesses out there. Right? So what are some of the benefits of virtualization? If you see, right, in a traditional architecture, if you have 5 servers, you have 5 applications. Right? If you have 10 applications, you need 10 servers. So that is how it is traditionally. And we want to change this. By applying what we call vSphere, the hypervisor on top of it, we're able to help businesses consolidate these applications to run on a lesser amount of servers. So in this case, you see, right? After we utilize vSphere, the software, we are actually able to run the 5 applications on just 3 servers. Right? So imagine the cost that you can save, right, on these hardwares as well and the software. So in fact, in VMware, we are open to work with any vendor. PCs, they have brands like Dell, they have HP, they have IBM. So all these are brands, and we are actually able to work with any of these hardware vendors, right? And we are able to, in fact, apply our vSphere on it. And then from then on, businesses, they can start to run the operating system and to start business as usual. Another benefit, right, is that it leads to a more productive workforce. Traditionally, you need to set up the server. It takes about 10 weeks, right? Because you got to raise the ticket with the IT admin. You got to open a ticket. You got to wait for them to reply you, and you got to configure the server, right? The server doesn't come configured. It comes as a bare box, and you probably have to go and do all the configuration. Right? If we translate it to a virtual machine in a virtualized environment, it's much easier. It only takes about 10 minutes because the administrator can really just log in to the console, to the management console, and you are actually able to right click and do a, create a virtual machine. And the virtual machine with a Windows operating system will be created for you. So that's how easy and much more simplified. So the next concept, right, is really, now we kind of know what is virtualization, what is a data center, what are some of the benefits that a lot of enterprises are using today. Let's take a look a bit more into private and public cloud, hybrid and multi-cloud, right? Don't be so shocked or don't be so alarmed by this, because I'll be here to bring you through them in a very simplified version. So I think these are terminologies that if you go into the tech industry, right, you probably will see it. Right? A lot of people, when I talk to customers, a lot of them, they are using all these terminologies, right, interchangeably. Right? But each of them stand for different meanings. So I really believe that it's really useful for you to at least understand a bit more on what each of this is, right? So that in case, when you go for your internships, when you're preparing for your internships or full-time job, this might just come in handy, right? So in a private cloud, private meaning private, right? I can have an organization and I will buy the servers, I will buy the license, I will buy the software, I will manage it myself, right? That is private. Everything is private. The enterprise will manage it by themselves. So public cloud is on the exact opposite, right? You have heard of things like Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, right? AWS. These are what we call public cloud providers. So these providers, right, they actually set up all these hardwares for you. They apply the softwares for you. They are what we call the third parties, right? And typically they loan out these services, right? You got to just tell them, hey, AWS, I want a virtual machine. Give it to me, right? Then you can purchase it on a subscription basis, right? So that is what it means by public cloud. There's another more technology, right, called the hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud, it means a mixture of private and public, really depending on the organization strategy, right? Maybe for your internship companies, maybe some of your courses, right? You might be doing some analysis on different companies and how they operate. So you might come across this terminology where hybrid cloud really just means that some of them, they utilize the platform on premise, right, in the private cloud, and they also subscribe to services from the public cloud. So that is a hybrid, right? We also have multi-cloud, and that is where companies or organizations, they use a mixture of clouds, right? They might be using certain services from Amazon and then another set of services from Google Cloud, right? So that is really what I meant by multi-cloud. So to put things into perspective, right, into a more pictorial form, private cloud is what it means when the customer hardware is purchased by the customer, is managed by the customer, and that is where virtual machines come in, right? Because we got to run the applications there, right? And then we also have public cloud, where it's running on public clouds providers hardware, right? And in fact, when we talk about hybrid cloud, right, it's really a mixture, right? And there are certain benefits, of course, to it, right? The first one is really the same platform. Your employees are skilled, are trained to use the private cloud and also the public cloud. You can migrate the workloads from private cloud. You can migrate them to public cloud easily. The second benefit is much more flexible. You can add the servers, right, very easily. You can remove them if you don't want to use it. Right. The benefit number 3 is really to access to the native cloud services. So public cloud providers like AWS or Azure, right? They possibly have their own services. They develop their own services, and customers, they can actually use and leverage on all these services as well. So these are the 3 quick benefits. So in summary, this whole page will actually kind of sum up what we have went through, right? We talk about virtualization, we talk about what private cloud is, what is public cloud, what is hybrid cloud, what are some of the benefits, what is a multi-cloud. So I would think that this is really the best slide that can summarize the sections that I have been talking about. Right? So in fact, I've come to the last page of my slide. Right before I'll pass on to Xiaoyu to continue. Right? But I think this whole idea is really what I have learned, right, throughout my journey in VMware. And when I entered the tech industry, I have really picked up a lot of things, and I realized that the tech industry is really huge and many things to learn, right? So without further ado, I would like to pass on my time on to Xiaoyu, who will continue, right, to share with you a bit more on some of the adopting trends and also how we as a company, right, we adapt to the COVID-19 situation. Right, Xiaoyu, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Judy. Before we go on, can you see my slides?
Yeah, you need to full put it into presenter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm audible, right? Cool, thank you. So moving on, first of all, good afternoon and good evening to everyone. My name is Xiaoyu, and I will be covering the second half of our presentation by answering two major questions, actually. First, how do we cope with COVID-19? And second, how do we adapt to industry trends? So let's move on to the next slide. As what we've all been through, this pandemic has transformed nearly every aspect of our life, from jobs to eating habits. For example, we were no longer allowed to go to the office or to eat outside during circuit breaker last year in order to curb the spread of COVID-19. And even for now, in light of the Delta and Lambda variant, dining in is still restricted to those fully vaccinated people, and work from home is still our default approach, no matter where you work or how do you work, as indicated in the slide above as well. So we have a question. How do we cope with these drastic changes in our lives, especially working styles, and adapt to this new normal, which is working remotely? We have an answer. So our answer is virtual desktops, also called VDI, the virtual desktop infrastructure. So basically, we install the Windows desktops in virtual machines and host the VMs in your company's data center so that end users are able to access those desktops over web or native client they installed in their endpoint devices. And that leads to the capability that they can use any device and they can access the service from anywhere. And this also offers a simple and secure user experience for working remotely. So maybe moving on to next slides, I will take you to have a deep dive in the underlying infrastructures. So in order to support all those remote working VMs or virtual machines or applications, we need underlying infrastructures. VMware is known for virtualizing servers, and during the past 5 years, we've provided storage virtualization for our customers with higher performance and lower costs. And for software-defined data center, as mentioned by Judy previously as well, we also have the virtualized network. So integrate together with our management layer, automation, and cost visibility. This whole stack provides us and enables us a highly efficient and automated private cloud, which we call data software-defined data center. And moving on, for the end users to access applications and virtual machines, there are various devices, including smartphones like iOS, like our Apple devices or Android devices, and even laptops. So by implementing our digital workspace, VMware transforms the end user experience via virtualized management. And this is also where I mainly specialize on. As mentioned, introduced previously, I'm a specialist solution engineer. So keep in mind that these whole stack are all on premises. So what if we put the stack in a public cloud, such as Amazon or Google Cloud? We provide consistent operations and visibilities around security automation for the applications migrated to the public cloud. And we can also bring in the same stack to the edge, which is like a tiny data center, and also to telco cloud as well. But also keep in mind that this migration is not a one-way ticket. We can actually migrate this whole stack back and forth between on-premises and public cloud. So to reflect what Judy explained previously as well, combining on-premises and public cloud, we call it hybrid cloud. And this can also be another good demonstration on running virtualizations in any cloud, including private cloud and public cloud, as the slides animated. So moving on to our second major question, how do we adapt to industry trends? So 7 years ago, everyone was saying that public cloud will kill VMware. But in fact, just the opposite. Our stock prices were boosted up more than 20% because the threat from AWS public cloud was overestimated by mistake. And analysts rarely admit their mistakes, but they do this time, as indicated in the pop-up. So why is that so? The reason being that we quickly shifted ourselves from our public cloud strategy, which is vCloud Air, to our multi-cloud strategy. So what is vCloud Air? It was introduced as our own hybrid cloud services years ago and aiming to compete against AWS and Azure, but we were left far behind. But fortunately, again, soon enough, we realized that instead of competing against the top players in the field, like Amazon and Google and Azure, we should cooperate with them. And now we are partnering with almost all the major market players, such as Azure, Google Cloud, and IBM Cloud. And also AWS is our primary cloud infrastructure partner here right now. And also we have seen this post that given on average, organizations use roughly about 5 clouds, and some of them, advanced users, leverage even more clouds on their day-to-day basis. So I could definitely say our multi-cloud strategy is the way to go, as indicated in this slide. So as what I've explained and elaborated previously, we can integrate our famous compute, storage, and network virtualization, along with our management vCenter layer, to optimize and run workloads on elastic, bare metal, and public cloud infrastructures, such as Amazon AWS, and Azure and Google Cloud. Okay, moving on to our next slide. On top of public cloud, as I explained previously, industry trends can also be emergent technologies such as Docker containers and Kubernetes. 3 years ago, again, everyone was saying that cloud-native applications will kill VMware. But before we look into that, let's see what is cloud-native applications first. Traditionally, we use monolithic architecture for application development, which means a lot of coding integrations and functional testings across teams, like the way we're familiar with to pull and commit code through GitHub. But to build and update applications more quickly, a new way of developing applications was introduced, which is through the microservices. So each of those microservices will deliver different functions to serve business needs. For example, cloud-native applications is nothing but a collection of those microservices, and those microservices are managed across private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. And that's why there's a cloud in the term. So moving on, considering the flexibility and agility required by the microservices, deploying them with virtual machines may not be a good choice. And that's where we introduce Docker containers to deploy them independently and also remove the risk of any conflict between languages, libraries, or frameworks. And we can also think of those containers as lightweight virtual machines, but just they don't need an operating systems per application. And once you have those microservices all running Docker containers, we will need something to help us to deploy and manage those workloads. And this is where our Kubernetes come in to help us orchestrate those containers so that it makes sense as an application, also help us to automate the application deployment. So looking forward, according to this quote, it will be significant for us to focus on the cloud-native application deployment, given that there will be hundreds of millions of applications developed and deployed this way. So to adapt ourselves to this emerging technology trend, VMware has been embracing the technologies by introducing containers and Kubernetes into our ecosystem. Okay, and last but not least, we've come to the last section of our career journey in VMware. So for the first half, we'll be talking about my roles as a pre-sales and my journey in VMware. And then followed by Judy, she will be continuing with our cultures and company values. So as introduced previously by Judy, I'm a solution engineer that specializes in end user computing, also called EUC. And just to elaborate a little bit more on my role as a pre-sales and what do I do for my day-to-day activities, my team and I are mainly looking after EUC projects across Asia, Pacific, and Japan region. So personally, I do more projects located in Singapore, India, and Australia in the past few months. So usually we will first get engaged by core solution engineers like Judy. So after they gather all the requirements from the customer side, our responsibility here is to validate the technical scope of the project and to finalize the requirement, which is also called the success criteria. And next, we're also in charge of preparing the proof of concept, also called POC, to ensure all success criteria are met and convince the customer that it is feasible to implement the solution. On top of that, we will also make sure that the customer has hands-on experiences to try and fail himself by enabling trial account, as well as preparing menu guides for them. So next, if we are talking about, just in case you're curious, if we're talking about the time taken to complete a proof of concept or POC, it varies from case to case actually, depending on multiple factors such as project scope or the intricacy of the customer's network environment. It could take weeks to complete, let's say, a SaaS virtual desktop infrastructure POC. And at the same time, it could take, let's say, a month to finish an on-site UEM POC. So once the customer is satisfied with the POC, we will mark it as a technical win, and then we'll proceed on to the deal closure with the help of our sales representatives. Normally, we partner with sales representatives. So I hope this introduction gives you a rough idea on what do I do as a pre-sales role, and then how do I do it. Next, I would like to highlight our new college graduate program. I joined VMware in July 2019 as an NCG, and so far it has been NCG stands for New College Graduates. And so far, I feel it has been a splendid 2-year journey for me. NCG program is a structured program that helps me prepare myself for this pre-sales role. And basically, it consists of 3 major components as indicated in the slides, 6 + 6 + 6. So first of all, we have a 6-week of foundation training programs that covers the technical basics, such as networking 101 or Virtualization 101. This is a great opportunity to learn all the technologies, and then followed by a 6-month on-job training and 6 months of shadowing. So for the 6-month on-job trainings, we were provided a self-paced online learning courses and hands-on labs that enable us to learn in a systematic way. And don't be afraid. Of course, we have people to ask to. And also we were offered the opportunities to attend training boot camps and ICM courses, which ICM stands for Install, Configure, and Manage. So this courses is also the prerequisites to get the VMware certificates, which is really useful. And you will find yourself honored to add those certificates in your profiles. So right after we complete the on-job training for 6 months, we started to shadow our seniors for the next 6 months with hands-on experiences, of course. So we had the exposure to work on real life cases, and we were given the opportunities to talk with the customers or even present to the management levels. Like for me personally, I presented to CIO previously with our POC success criteria and the testing outcomes. And what's more important, I feel, is that throughout the time, we were learning from the best because our seniors are always our go-to person. Whenever we have any questions or we meet any difficulties, they have the domain expertise with years of experience to help, and they're always willing to provide the timely guidance and support for us. And this will bring us to my last point, which is the support along the way. Apart from our knowledgeable seniors, we will also have approachable leadership. We have regular one-on-one meetings with our managers and directors, and we also have different communication channels such as WhatsApp or Teams. And this makes it really convenient to communicate with them. If you have anything to update or you would like to talk with them for several reasons. Yep, and last but not least, on top of knowledgeable seniors and approachable leaderships, before COVID, we were having those company events and team get-togethers from time to time, which definitely keeps us connected within teams and across divisions. I believe Judy will be elaborating on it at a later time. And now let me pass it over to her to continue. Judy, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Xiaoyu. So totally agree with what Xiaoyu has been sharing, right? I was also part of that same program, the NCG program, and all the while has been a very, very supportive environment, right, in VMware, all the way when we first graduated till today. We really found ourselves learning so much more about the technology industry, and I really believe VMware is the best place, right, to start off your career. So how is it like, right, being a woman in technology, right in VMware itself, right? Speaking from the experience of both myself and also Xiaoyu, right? Firstly, right, is the culture, right? That there is really a great inclusive culture right over in VMware. So what do I mean by that, right? Really right before COVID, right? We have a lot of these parties and celebrations going on, right? Birthday celebrations, Deepavali celebrations, New Year party celebrations. These are part of the whole inclusive culture where we as the new graduates, right, we get to plan all of this as well, right? Imagine planning a party for a company with 400 employees, right? That is such a wonder, right? And that is what I meant by the great inclusive culture. And that is on the fun side, right? And of course, on the more fun side, there's also the opportunities for training, to learn, and also to contribute back to the society. So that is where we have the different trainings, right? Because we most likely will have to undergo some form of training, right? Experience training to really get ourselves hands-on on the solution, even to be able to support our customers better, right? Also for personal development as well. And there is also where we have service learning, where right in VMware, we are really encouraged to contribute back to the community. So we do partners with a lot of these partners there, right, who really provide this kind of service learning experience for employees. And most importantly, right, we feel really empowered to contribute back as well, right? Because right in VMware, we get the opportunity to learn, to build ourselves out from a graduate all the way till today, a professional employee working, to be able to communicate with customers. Even myself, I communicated with the CEO or CFO, right? These are people that we as a job, right, we got to communicate with them to ensure that they understand what our solution is about and how we can help. So with all this, is really the empowering that we get, right, to contribute back to the community, to contribute back to VMware also. So second point, right, is really on the graduate program. It's really a structured program with the 6+6+6 initiative that Xiaoyu was talking about. I myself, I was assigned a mentor right when I joined VMware, and I was able to communicate. I was able to talk to my mentor about many different things, from how she was also when she first joined VMware, or when she first graduated from her school, right? And that whole journey, that was a really good experience talking to her, right? There's also key partners, right? I wouldn't say, in VMware, you got the experience to really find out more about what the technology industry is, right? It's so huge out there. We have players like Google, we have players like Amazon, AWS, right? And we have players like NVIDIA, the graphics card company. So these are partners that in VMware we work really closely with. In some opportunities, we even get a chance to talk to all these employees from different of these organizations. And earlier on, I was sharing a bit more on virtualization, right? And in fact, in VMware, we have much more. We do have cloud solutions. We also learn a bit more on security. We also have the end user computing side of stuff. We also learn really about the data centers as well. So these are things that is happening right in the industry technology, and that is what we learn and we apply it in our day-to-day jobs, right? So the last one is on the advice, right? What advice I would really give all of you, right, on a call, is really to involve yourself in what we call the open community, where you can have your own network of mentors, you can have your own lecturers, your professors, right? And that is where you can have your peers as well, right? So all of this will form what we call the open community. And the organization itself should be supportive of this open community, where it encourages collaboration between different colleagues and different employees, right? So this will really ensure you to grow your confidence, to give you the training to be able to grow your confidence. So if let's say you want to go into the woman in tech industry, right? You really have to be more confident about yourself, right? We graduate from college, right? We should be confident about what we have learned, and then we should apply all of this to our customers as well, or to your colleagues, right? And the last one is really to expand your network, right? So long, you are confident of yourself, you prove that you're able to do this capability, you work hard, I'm very sure you'll be able to succeed, right, in your future roles or in your future jobs. It might be with VMware or it might not be, right? But I really hope that, if you are able to be more open, be more confident, expand your network, I'm sure you will be able to find yourself a really, really good opportunity and also a good spot to further improve yourself as well. Right? So I think I have the next slide, which will be a bit more fun, where I will show more pictures, right? In fact, this is what we do, right, in VMware. So this is the company that is located in Suntec, right? That's where VMware office is. And what you see on the screen, right, is actually employees who are painting the walls to illustrate our symbol, our culture. Right, the next slide will show the our culture called the EPIC 2, EPICC. Right, so EPIC stands for execution, P will stand for passion, then I will stand for integrity, and lastly, C for community and also customers. So this is the value that all VMware employees will stand by, and that is where employees we are able to paint all these paintings on the wall. So at least when we walk past, right, we are able to see this whole masterpiece. Right, so that's a bit more on the fun part. The next slide will actually show the end of year party where Xiaoyu and myself were part of the team. We actually organized the whole event, right from day one, of course, with the help of the sponsors like Anson, who's on the call as well. Right? And you can see from the picture, right, on the left-hand side, that is actually where we are, right? The whole new college graduates hired across many universities, and that is where we build bonds and we make friends with each other. We collaborated with each other to organize this party, and you can see a lot of the colleagues are dressed up and enjoying themselves as well. Right? So the next slide will show a bit more on the cultural celebrations. So you see, right, from that slide, you probably can identify me without my spectacles. I'm the one in white, right? And this is where we dressed up in sari, right? And then we are able to dance, right? We even got to learn the dance, right? And dance it in front of the whole who's that? The whole company. Right? And you can see Chinese New Year, right? That's something that we celebrate as well. Similarly, right, for many different occasions like Hari Raya, right? Just to name a few, right? There are of course a few more, Christmas and all this. So I think I have come to the end of this slide. Really, thank you so much for sitting through this session. I really hope that you have learned a bit more on what VMware is as a company, what we have done so far, virtualization, how we adapt to COVID-19, and what are some of the fun things that we have done so far in our journey. And also some of the tips, right? And how to become more successful, right, in the woman in the tech industry, right? Be it whichever gender you're in, right? So long you're able to work hard, you show that confidence, I believe you'll be able to succeed, right? Yeah, thank you. So far, are there any questions along the way?
Yep, so the floor is now open to all your questions. I'll be reading out the questions for the convenience of the speakers and the participants. Our first question is, does VMware have a research segment?
Okay, I'll take this question. Yes, we do, but they're not based in Singapore. They are based outside of Singapore. So they're mainly in India, China, and a very small part in ANZ, Australia.
Okay, so the next question is, what is the difference between hybrid cloud and multi-cloud?
So remember the picture that I was showing earlier on? So hybrid cloud is when a company adopts a mixture of private and also public cloud, right? So a mixture of such adoption will be called hybrid cloud. And what multi-cloud means is when a company, right, they utilizes two or more public clouds, right? So they utilize two public clouds and as well as multiple private clouds, right? That would be a more larger scale, and that is what we meant by multi-cloud. Yeah, hope that answers.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is a day in the life of a solution engineer like?
Okay, maybe I can take this question. So first of all, our day start first, we'll be checking the emails because we have a lot of email conversations going on, such as preparations for the proof of concept, as mentioned, also called POC, and then preparing materials such as success criteria and also the menu guides for our customers so they can have hands-on experiences. And what's more important is to have customer meetings with IT directors or IT leads, even sometimes CTO and CIOs from the customer side. Back in the old days where we still can do on-site meetings, we usually will present at the customer side. So this is a really important section for our day-to-day job. And then apart from that, another important section of our day-to-day job will be self-learnings because, there are a lot of emerging technologies. We need to keep ourselves updated to them. And so we have those like quarterly learning programs. We get to learn all the new technologies and then continue to develop our technical skills. Yeah, I hope this answers your questions.
Will you all be sharing your LinkedIns?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I think we can share the link in. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your experience working overseas or working with people from other countries been like?
So let's say so for myself, I work with people in Singapore, I work with people in Malaysia, I work with people in Indonesia. So the experience is really very, very good, right? Because all along I've been working a lot more in school, right? That's where we work in projects, and that's we people right living right in Singapore. So when we talk about working with, let's say, employees from or customers, right, from Malaysia itself or from Indonesia, right? Maybe Xiaoyu has her own set of countries that she work with as well, right? We have to really learn more about their culture, to be able to relate to them and understand to them, right? Sometimes it's really not just about work. We also chit chat, sometimes I tell my peers in Malaysia, right? If I go to Malaysia, I'll come and find you, right? Same for my peers in, let's say, Indonesia, right? This is where bonds are being made, right? Friendship are being made outside of work, and I can always be like, hey, I'm gonna drop by Indonesia. Can I just come and find you? You come and guide me along. So I would say it's very similar to how we are, right, in school, where we might have met some exchange students. Right now, I'm not sure how things are, right? But you probably heard of exchange students where you go overseas or overseas people or students, they come over to your school, right? And that is where you are able to mingle with them. And I'm sure NTU has a lot of these cultural immersive programs to be able to allow this kind of facilitate this kind of collaboration, right? So it's very similar. I just bring it across to the workforce where on top of fun, there is also work, right? So you got to really learn on all these skill sets along the way.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe I have one more thing to add on for this question. Like there's an important factor for working with people from other countries is the time difference. For an example, I've been working with people from India and Australia. There's a huge time difference between Singapore and these two countries. And then just maybe share my recent experiences with working for Indian projects. The time is 2.5 hours behind our schedule. So normally I would take calls until like, let's say 8 p.m. So working with people from other countries sometimes will be meaning get off late or get up early. Yep.
So the next question is, how do you join this program? I'm assuming they mean the graduate program.
Yeah, I'll take that question. So basically, we do have opening coming up for our graduate program for next year, but not this year. It will usually be posted around in September. You can take a look at our website, so VMwareCareers.com. If not, you can actually reach out to us. If you look at the chat box, you can reach out to my team personally if you have any questions that are something that you don't feel comfortable asking now, but you want to ask more in details. You can reach out to us via emails. But our graduate program typically starts in every year in July. So the program includes the graduate program and the internship program. So the internship program would usually start in this summer, between May to July, 3 months period. So I think this year we are done. So we will be looking forward to the next year's batch.
Okay, thank you. What do deals with different companies entail? Do cloud contracts differ from company to company, or do you have a few fixed packages?
Yeah. So the cloud contracts, right, will actually, of course, differ. Amazon can have their own contract, right? Microsoft Azure can have their own contract. So at the end of the day, it is really who you want to use, who you want to subscribe, who you want to subscribe from. And then from then on, we also do partnership with all these cloud companies, right? So a lot of this solution, you're able to find it on the cloud companies as well. So that is where we differ. So a lot of these pricing things it can vary from A to Z. So a lot of these are really when we really have to have a deep dive conversation in this, especially with the sales representative who will talk more about contracts and the packages as well. Yeah, but it differs. Yeah.
Do we have to know cloud technology to get an internship or a job at VMware?
Speaking from my own experiences, maybe I can take this. So before I get into VMware, I didn't really know anything about cloud technology or any of the virtualization techniques. But as I mentioned previously, for our NCG new college graduate program, we do offer opportunities to continuously help you learn in a systematic way. Like what I mentioned, the 6+6+6, 6 week of foundational training, 6 week of on-job training, followed by 6 months of on-job training, followed by a 6 month shadowing experience. So the company would do help you prepare yourself for the role you are getting into, so no worries. And then I realized Anson unmuted himself. So Anson, do you want to add on?
Yeah, the question is simple. No, you don't have to. Basically, you don't have to have cloud technologies to get into the internship at VMware. But if you have certain cloud internship or cloud related projects or cloud related maybe exposure, I think that would be a good to have, a bonus to have, definitely would be much attractive. Where we are looking out for talents in internship space as well as for the graduate space. There's a question for me, direct message that maybe you can see here, but I'll read it out. So a final year student in NTU, I would like to ask if the graduate program for VMware has opened. So I've addressed that question. It will open next month. You can keep a lookout. It's usually between about mid time frame of the month in September. That we usually will roll out most of the positions that we have. And the positions that we might likely have would be technical roles that are like solutions engineers like Xiaoyu and Judy. We also have technical roles that are like consultants. So they're technical consultants, they're services consultants. And we do have similar tech sales role, meaning to say you need not be a technical person, or you may be a technical person but interested in doing sales. That would be possible opportunities for those who are penultimate year students.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is the difference between VMware and AWS?
Yeah, so VMware, right, we do offer a lot of solutions ranging from virtualization solutions, ranging from helping customers to build their whole IT environment, right? Our customers may come to VMware and then they say, I want to build a hybrid cloud model. They come to VMware and then they say, help me to build my private cloud. I want to modernize my whole technology infrastructure. Right? So that's where VMware can help them, because we also offer the partnership with AWS. Right? So in terms of solutioning wise, let's say for AWS, it's more of a public cloud industry, public cloud vendor, where they also offer their own set of services, right? Their own set of services can include their databases, their machine learning algorithm. They probably also have virtual machines that they donate out to you. They have third-party services. So they help you to do migration. So these are many things. So I would say the key difference is really in terms of the solutions that we offer, right, separately. But if customers who are looking for a joint solution, right, for a joint hybrid cloud solution, that is where you can come to both VMware, you can come to both AWS. We at the back end will partner with each other and to bring you through that whole journey as well.
And there we have our last question. Where do you think the industry is heading towards in the future?
Yeah, very, very good question. So the technology industry is really, really very huge, as I've been really saying so much, right? All the way from the day I entered into the tech industry up to today, I think it's been about a good 4+2, 6+ years, right from university, right? And I have learned so much, right? Right now we even hear the terms of AI, robotics, machine learning, analytics. This is where is coming in, right? And Xiaoyu also mentioned about Kubernetes, about containers, right? These are really technologies, to be honest, I have not heard of them years ago. It's really very new, right? So a lot of trends of this are really coming in. So I would really say the future is really very broad, right? It's really very wide. I can foresee a lot of things happening in the future. A lot more companies, they are going to develop themselves towards the robotics term, the machine learning, the containers and Kubernetes, right? I think that is my take, right, on where it's heading. Different people may have different takes on this, but I mean, the future being the future, probably we are able to foresee, but we can have different ideas. But I'm also very interested to see where the future will be as well, right? Yeah. Yeah. Shall you have anything to add on Anson on this?
I really like the point you bring up, Kubernetes and the containers, because I think that will be the way to go for us to develop applications in a much faster way in the future. Yep. Anson, would you like to add on anything?
Yeah, so just to add on, I think the future is really awaiting for us to see what's happening, because it could happen anytime, right? Technology changes really fast. But what I see the trend in going forward, or what I say already in that state, is every company tries to go into a SaaS model. But what kind of cloud technologies? Obviously, everyone is able to break through that technology within their own space. That it's the innovation in technology world, right? It could forever be evolving. All right, so no one really exactly knows or can tell you that what it's really going to head to, because you never know that it may come out with another great technology, and then we are going to get adapt to the kind of technology space, and we upgrade ourselves to move along the industry and what other people are doing great, right? So I would say nowadays we see a lot of strategies emphasizing on SaaS model. I think that will be a more predictable, able to see what's more future in what I say the measurement, the ROI, be what technology it may be in the technology world, I would say. But obviously just my opinion, I may be wrong, but that's what I kind of understand. And even for VMware, we're really trying to go into a SaaS model. Ever since this year, our direction is to move fast into the SaaS model. right? And also VMware, if you're not known, we're not just doing virtualization, we're also doing cloud native applications. So moving in very fast into the cloud native space.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll be having a group photo. Please switch on your cameras. Yep. I'll just give everybody a second to switch on their cameras. Okay. In 3, 2, 1, cheese. Another one. Just a second. Okay, thank you. Yep, I think we would all agree that this was an incredibly insightful session and that we got a super informative glimpse into the world of virtualization and cloud technology. To the VMware team, you have been wonderful speakers and we are really grateful to have you as part of the WIT family through this special workshop. Thank you once again for joining us. As a reminder to all of you, our next SheShares session will be held next week, where speakers from Schneider Electric will be sharing about life lessons in data management. Do join us and feel free to invite friends who might want to attend. Just a reminder that those who attend at least 4 out of 6 SheShares sessions will receive attractive prizes from WIT. Please remember to fill in the attendance sheet in the chat to register for the giveaway. We loved your enthusiasm throughout this session. Thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. Feel free to share what you have learned with others who might be interested or even on social media. Don't forget to tag us as well. A quick shout out to the WIT team behind today's session. Shishti, Claire, Sanya, Akshat, Chi, Shane, Noor, and Nisha for putting together this session and handling the media publicity on all our channels. We'll see you next week for our upcoming session, but until then, have a great night. Thank you, everybody.